How's everybody doing today? This is Buck. This is episode one of Buck's Brain. We had the pilot a couple days ago, but we are ready to get cooking. So get your seatbelts on. You might want to put on a helmet, maybe some padding, because this might get a little wild. So, if anybody's ever been shopping at flea markets or perhaps garage sales, you'll see some interesting behaviors. And one of the few things I've noticed that really has struck me as interesting is what people like to sell at garage sales. And if you mosey around and you pick through things, it looks like people look through their junk drawer or in their attic or out of that drawer that they forgot existed, and they throw a 50-cent sticker on it and say, "Yep, it's for sale." And you're looking at it and you're thinking, I don't think I really want this. This doesn't look exactly like something I could ever use, you know? And it makes sense. I mean, that's the whole point of garage sales, is for people to kind of unload the stuff that they don't want. And I know that there are times that you go to garage sales and you see something that you may need or want. And a good example for me is tools. Every now and I go and I find a tool that somebody didn't know that was, I wouldn't say valuable, but had some use to it, or maybe something that was very unique and they never thought they needed it. Now I know my mom likes to get a lot of home decor there, little pictures or figurines or something that probably somebody decided to redecorate, and now they don't need it anymore. So you can get stuff for pretty bargain basement prices. So it's not a bad way to shop. But the hard part is you never know what you're going to get. You're going to go drive around for hours all over town. In the old days, we used to look up newspaper ads and have half a dozen. You start driving around and you see some sign. And we've kind of updated to Craigslist. There's actually now some Facebook pages and social media that tells you where to go. So it's become more of a science than an art. And every now and again you get a little lucky and you save a little money. But then there's the other side. If you've ever done or put on or hosted a garage sale or yard sale, or if you rented a booth at a flea market, this is where it gets interesting. Because normally people don't sell things at their own yard sale that they actually care about. So I've sold stuff like old camcorders, maybe some old jackets that don't fit anymore because I got so buff working out, maybe some tools or something that were obsolete. I know that we used to see a lot of VHS tapes and now DVD tapes and now CDs floating around. And those are just things people don't need anymore. They're not useful. We don't know what to do with them. We don't want to throw them away. Sometimes we give them away to charity. Some people like to make a little extra money and give it to the poor. But it just seems like a very strong variety or different variety of people's lives just sitting on the front yard, and people pick over it, and some people look at it like, why are they selling this? This looks a little strange. And then some people get real excited. And then there's that guy or girl that really gets on your nerves. You're selling something for dirt cheap, such as a camcorder, a camera, maybe a video game, and it's 90% off of what you paid for it. I mean, you're practically giving it away, and they're trying to negotiate with you like 30 cents. It's like you're $35 for this $300 camera, and they want $28, and you're like, come on, man, this is a little ridiculous. You're getting a good deal, but you just really need to feel like you're winning this negotiation. So sometimes that can get a little nerve-wracking in itself. But the main point I want to make about this is we seldom sell at garage sales or yard sales or on the Facebook marketplace things that are important to us, heirlooms, useful things. I know that for ladies, for instance, maybe great grandma's punch bowl, maybe some silverware, maybe some linen, maybe somebody's some furniture that great great granddaddy carved by hand when he was a pioneer back in the 1840s. I know I have a lot of stuff from my great great grandparents. knives, some firearms, some World War II trinkets. There's just no price tag for that. You're just not going to give that away. That stuff is part of your life. And if somebody came up and, brought a Brinks truck full of cash and said, I really want that samurai sword, I'd have to look at it for a minute, but I probably would say no because there's just no way I could get it back. There's no other heirloom like that laying around. And I think that's pretty normal. And that's not materialistic, by the way. That's just being human. And I wouldn't mind selling maybe my old computer. I wouldn't mind selling maybe some baby clothes that my kids no longer, fit, or some blankets that we no longer need. But I definitely have things I want to hang on to. Well, there's a story in the book of Matthew, starting in chapter 19, and our pastor preached a little bit about this last week. And it mainly had to do with what does it take to be in the kingdom of heaven, and what is Jesus really looking for? What kind of person does he want as his servants? And the person made a very good point in the story, saying he kept a lot of commandments. And if you read through the commandments, what's really interesting is he kept all the commandments that were quite easy. Like, for instance, he didn't murder. Well, I don't know about you all, but I think I have enough self-control not to go murder somebody for cutting me off on the highway, and I don't think I've ever had the desire to go break into my neighbor's house to steal their Blu-ray or their brand new LCD HD TV. So some of the things he was talking about were pretty, I wouldn't say easy to prevent from doing or to stop yourself from doing, but they weren't exactly hard either. So Jesus challenged him. He said, yeah, you're doing a really good job. And, that's good. He gave him a lot of compliments. And I think that sometimes we need a pat on the back saying, yeah, we're living right and we're doing what we're supposed to do. But then he challenged him a little bit further. He said, you're a rich man. You've got a lot of possessions. If you want to take it one step further, how about you surrender that to the poor? Now, I take a lot of exception to that. And number one, the reason is because a lot of the stuff I have, I saved for, I worked hard for. I don't have a lot of what you would call toys or possessions. In fact, I probably have like 2 or 3 things that that are very, very important to me outside of my family and my church and, relationships. It would be really hard for me to give my pickup truck away, for instance, to a charity organization or the church, since I've gone 20 years without a pickup truck. And then I've got some heirlooms from my grandparents that go back to literally before the turn of the century, the 19th century. And it just would be really hard to part with. So I kind of understand where this guy's coming from. These are not just, giving away some candy, some fruit, and maybe, raking some guy's yard. This is what he feels like is part of his life. But I think the part that Jesus exposed to him was that he was not willing to go all the way to serve Jesus. He wasn't willing to sacrifice everything to be a Christian. And I started wondering about that even more in my life. Obviously, God rarely calls us to sell our house and give it to the poor and give all of our, shirts away and clothes away or computers away. I every now and again I might do something like give somebody a bag of fruit or something, but that's about the end of it. But what God does call us to do, that is our possessions that are hard to give away, I believe, would be in modern era stuff like our time and our resources, our energy, our relationships. Who do we consider our friends? Who do we avoid? Maybe getting past some of our judgment, and maybe looking past certain things that block us from getting to know certain people, such as ethnicity, race, class system. And I think those are very important. And if you think about a camel passing through an eye of a needle, in other words, Jesus saying, you've got so much wealth, you got so much happiness, you're so content that you have no reason to shrink. You have no reason to give things up to go into heaven. You feel like you have heaven here on earth. And just like going to a flea market or a yard sale, you really don't need anything you're looking for. It's not like you know, your life depends on buying that really ugly frying pan that just might look cool hanging on your wall. Or if you're a guy, an extra fishing pole just because who knows, you may need it someday. If your life really depended on something, you would go somewhere else. Well, Jesus is saying those things that you think your life depends on are very much expendable. And they are temporary. They can be lost. And he's saying if you surrender those to me, if you allow me to be in control of the things that you feel are important, the possessions in your life and the relationship in your life that keep you going, I could go so much further. I could make you so much happier. And not only would you be serving me in the correct and honest way, I really feel like there'd be a sense of fulfillment and reward that you've never experienced before. So my question to you, and I know this one might be a little bit deeper than some of the ones that the podcasts I've really wanted to do, is make a little list for yourself, pray about it, take some time. What are some things that God has been telling you to let go? And I'm not talking about, stop going to church, don't go there. Stop, if you're working with the homeless, keep doing that, especially if you have kids. Oh, kids, I'm sorry, but, Dad can't do homework with you anymore. He's going to go off on sabbatical. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the things that you feel are important, like such as a certain relationship with a person, a hobby, maybe investments, maybe how you just view your time management schedule. And just ask God to see if that's exactly what He wants from you. And be willing to sacrifices and give it to the Lord and give it to other people maybe. Imagine this. Pray to God and say, hey, God, I've got 8 hours a day where I'm not at work and I'm not at sleep. These are your hours. What do you want me to do with it? How do you want me to best serve it? That's scary to do, folks. You might want to do that when you're not in a good state of mind, because it might give you a lot of anxiety and it might scare you a little bit. Pray about what your family needs. You may feel like your family's doing good. You got a nice house. Maybe you got a nice car. You got vacations. You got good friends. And say, God, I am surrendering these possessions, the possession of my family, and what we do together and how we bond together to you. And I want this to be your family. And see what happens. Change isn't always exactly fun. It's not exactly something we look forward to. But somehow I feel like this is what we need as Christians to get through the eye of the needle, and for us to be able to say, well done, or for God to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Is for us to surrender the parts of our lives that we enjoy, that are fulfilling to us, that have a reward. Okay, well, that's the end of episode 1. I hope you enjoy it. Every couple of days I hope to broadcast a new one. I want it to be a lot more humorous, a little more conversational. This one has to do with a little bit more of what we talked about in Sunday sermon last week. So my next one I hope to be kind of silly, maybe talk about a little bit about my life or my family life and make everybody laugh. And when you see me again, you can poke fun at me. All right, everybody, have a great day, and we will see you next time. Adios.